Welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. My name is Cavan and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. Our interviews are mainly recorded to be transcribed, but every now and again we release the audio in a series we call Post-Burnout.com interviews. If you enjoy what we do, be sure to subscribe. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, we speak with the Cavan hip-hop artist Bless. He talks about his single Hit Me Up, working with producer KxngBari, their musical collective The Spider and the Crown, coming from no scene in Cavan to the hip-hop scene in Dublin, his utilisation of the Jersey club beat, how he became a musician from going to church, his first headlining show at the Sound House in Dublin, and more. I want to note that there's a bit of a jump cut in this episode, and that's because during the interview, Zoom just decided to mess up a little bit. Thankfully, it only happens once, and the episode could still be salvaged. Yeah, the first thing I just want to ask, is just how you kind of got started in music. What made you want to become an artist?
Yeah, that's a good question. You see, I went to college, and one of my friends, like my close friend from secondary school, he was doing computer science. And he introduced me to this guy named KxngBari who was in his course. And I'd always wrote raps in school. They weren't any good. But I was like, yeah, I'd love to try my hand at that. And then when I met KxngBari, he was like, yo, I make beats and stuff like that. And let me produce for you. And then he sent over the first set of beats and we started making music together. And then that was just a whole journey itself,
Yeah. And obviously KxngBari, you end up making The Spider and the Crown with him. I was wondering if you could maybe tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So essentially, Spider and Crown is I'm the spider and he's the crown because obviously he's the king. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that was just kind of, we toyed with a lot of different names for our collective in the way that like a Drake would have OVO or whatever it is, or J. Cole would have Dreamville. We actually just needed to set up an email for an event we were hosting, and we needed a name. And we're just like, all right, let's just call it Spider Crown.
Yeah.
And then it just became that. And obviously one day we wanted to grow to this thing where we have artists under us, and we work with all sorts of different people, producers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just coming back actually to how you got into music. So for you, what? You said you were you started rapping in school, but what were your inspirations? What were you listening to then?
Oh, see, what it was is actually I grew up in a church, and me and my brothers, we played instruments in the church. I learned guitar and drums, so I was always kind of musical from the start. Like my oldest brother was my first influence of rap music. I remember he used to play Eminem Encore for us, and he'd get the TV remote and he'd make us learn 50 Cent and Dr. Dre's parts, and he'd do Eminem, and that was my first introduction of rapping. Yeah. So then when it got to college times, when I met KB, I was huge into just the UK scene, you know what I mean, Dave and Stormzy and Fredo, and then obviously the American guys like Drake and J. Cole and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you kind of got together, did you find that there was overlap between what you guys were interested in, or do you think you brought something different, he brought something different?
Oh, 100%. I don't even think there was that much overlap now that I really think about it. Yeah. He was into a lot of New York and New York rap, Nas and stuff like that. And then he also kind of was also very interested in
Oh, I can hear you perfect now. Yeah. So sorry, let's just go back to that last question then. So yeah, I can hear you fine now. So yeah, so you and KxngBari, so you were saying he was kind of more into the kind of New York rap scene.
Yeah. He was into that, and then obviously he was a big fan of Travis Scott and stuff like that. And then when we got together and we started making music, he kind of inspired me to start doing different things, using auto-tune and just rapping in a different way. So that, in that sort of way, we ended up overlapping, but our influences were kind of different at the start.
Yeah. And then, so with the Spider and the Crown then, so you're talking about it as kind of a collective then. So when it kind of comes to the sort of the artists you'd be looking to kind of work with, what is there any kind of commonalities between them, or do you feel if someone's just interested, that's all that really matters?
I think it's I think a big thing for us, because like over the years we've had a chance to work with like different collectives. Like we, in like 2020 with COVID, we were part of some group called the Corner Boys and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I think what we've kind of learned now is like people can be interested in music, but a lot of people can kind of treat it as a hobby. I think what kind of people we're looking for is like people that are like ready to work. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
ready to like really work and work hard. And is this like the thing that you imagine feeding your kids with, or like is it what you imagine buying your first house with? If that's what it is, then you're locked in with us. Like that's the same kind of mentality that we have. So it's
Right.
kind of like whatever sacrifice you need to take for it, whatever, like you'd stop at nothing type of way,
Absolutely. And yeah, so I mean, like recently you guys headlined the Soundhouse, for example. Was that
Yeah.
like sort of the first like really big headlining gig you done, or?
No, we co-headlined a show before with an artist from Wicklow called Six Sense,
Yeah.
and that was like my first ever sort of my own performance. I mean, I think through my college years, I'd asked to do like a couple of like Afro balls and whatever little performances here or there, but that Sandhouse show was our first ever solo. It's just me, and we did a great job. We sold it out, and we that was like our first one, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the single for "Hit Me Up" was filmed there, and I think that's like I was watching the video earlier, and it's like I think it's like really good like video production too. Do you think
Yeah,
like that's also kind of part of like a collective that people don't really think about because people just think of the music, but I think like the also the important part of like collectives is the behind the scenes people like that.
yeah, 100%. I mean, our video guy Casper, he's a big part of like everything that we have going on. I met him shortly after I met KB in first year.
Mm.
And he's kind of been around with us for a long time, and he kind of knows what kind of style we like, and he's literally just a fly on the wall and catches these really great moments. And once I knew that we wanted to make Hit Me Up a single and we wanted to put out a video for it, and we knew we had enough footage from the show, he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna chop it up and I'll make something nice for you guys. And he did. It was great.
Yeah, and let's talk about Hit Me Up then. So I think it's like really, I was listening to it and I think it's just the word I would describe is just fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's very, I don't know, like, and I'm not saying this as a bad thing, but I think like a lot of rap and hip hop kind of in recent years is sort of getting very introspective and very political, which is good. But I think there is also the space for the people who just want to have a good time too, you know?
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean,
do you, sorry, good.
no, yeah, no, yeah. To piggyback off that, yeah, you're definitely right. It was definitely a record inspired from fun. Like we wanted another single out before the show,
Mm-hmm.
and we were working on this song, but it was a bit more like dark and like just a bit more aggressive. And we liked it, but we're like, we weren't too sure about it. And then like I remember KB went up to bed, and then like I found this Jersey Club beat, which is the beat that Hit Me Up was. And
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the song in like 2 hours. And I remember I like went up to his room and woke him up, and I was like, yo, I think we got one. We got to go studio tomorrow. We got to go. And he was like half asleep. He didn't understand what was going on. Then I came in the next morning and I was like, yeah, we're going studio in like an hour. Let's go. We gotta record this. And then it just ended up being like that kind of song. So it was so like organic, the process.
Yeah. And like was the intent kind of because I think this was like kind of what the press release was hitting at was that it was kind of like a summer anthem in a way, or like it was
Yeah.
just like a feel good kind of, you know, and I definitely get that. I mean, it feels like really just like, you know, chill, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. We were definitely going for summer vibes. We made it in like March. So we knew that like, yo, the weather's starting to get a bit better.
Yeah.
This is the kind of song that people want to hear. Um, you know, because we are just thinking of like where we like to listen to music. So like all the guys are over, maybe you're having a few drinks, it's sunny, whatever it is.
Yeah,
That's the kind of song you just kind of want playing in the background,
absolutely.
So that was the thought about it. And then obviously, getting it on radio as well.
Yeah.
So, we've had the opportunity lately to get our songs on the radio, and these are the kind of songs that people want to hear at this kind of time. So it just made sense.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you're from Cavan, is that correct?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
So most of like the kind of the hip hop scene in Ireland is kind of centralized in like Dublin. What do you think being
Yeah.
from outside Dublin kind of adds like a different perspective or?
Oh yeah, 110%. I feel like, you can ask anyone, Cavan, like I'm kind of like the first person to do this. Can you hear that in the background? That's great.
No, it's great.
All right, yeah. I'm kind of like the first person to really start this music thing. I mean, obviously, since I have begun, there are people who have started making music, and I feel like when I just got to Dublin, it added like a chip on my shoulder for
Hmm.
sure, because like I wasn't known, I wasn't able to get songs with the big guys. No one was really giving me that look, so I really had to like work for like I mean, everything that I've kind of gotten recently. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And but was there any kind of scene in Cavan, or did you have to kind of go to Dublin to find that?
Yeah, it was. There was not really a scene in Cavan. No, not at all. I kind of did have to go to Dublin,
Hmm.
and it coincided with me starting college because I went to college in Dublin. So that was really when it all began, and the scene was like bubbling in Dublin at that time. So it was really, really competitive. So yeah, there was no scene in Cavan at that time.
Yeah, and I think like the interesting about what you're saying then is like if you go to Dublin and you're kind of you're still making it when there is like competition rather than just being in a place like Cavan where there doesn't really seem to be any competition. I mean, I think that kind of shows your merit in a way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. That was a big driving factor for us. It was to get known, to get respected. For the longest time, we thought we'd listen to everyone's music and we'd be like, oh, we're 10 times better, and
Hmm.
oh, why aren't we getting those shows, or why aren't we getting radio play? Now, honestly, back then we just weren't good,
Okay.
but like we've worked towards it and like we've gotten better since. So now we feel in a really comfortable place that like yeah, we can hang with like the big leagues.
Do you think it's important for artists of any type to kind of strive for improvement and to kind of not get complacent? And how do you feel that like just before we start recording, you were talking about like you just came back from the studio. How do you feel that you're kind of building on the blocks you've already established, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like incredibly important to like, at the end of the day, you want to make music for yourself and you want to
Hmm.
make music for how you feel and what you feel about certain situations. But, kind of spending all your time obsessing about, you know, other artists and what they're doing and where they're going it's a good and bad thing, because it keeps you on your toes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I always equate music to sports. It's kind of
Sure.
like, yeah, you could be working super, super hard, but like if there's this kid who's at the court playing basketball who's just kind of better than everyone else, you want to be better than the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's there's that level of it, but another level of it is like, yeah, you still have to do it for yourself and stay true to what you believed in when you first ever started it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing I was a little unclear of. So when did you start rapping? Like at what age and how old are you now? Like,
Okay, so I'm 22 now.
mhm.
I started rapping seriously at like 17,
Yeah.
and I started like writing raps at like 11 or 12, because we were just me and my brothers were like big Disney Channel kids.
Yeah.
So like we used to watch like like Lemonade Mouth or whatever it is, and we'd hear a rap and then we'd get so excited and like I'd want to start writing raps and stuff like that. But I wasn't taking it seriously. I started taking it seriously at like 17.
Yeah. And is that at 17, is that when you started rapping under the name Bless?
Yeah, yeah, that's when I started rapping under the name Bless. It would have been by 17. Um, I tried so many different other names before. Like I had like IBK and I forget what other names I had. But then yeah, that was really when Bless became a thing.
That kind of Jersey style you were talking about earlier, I think is a very signature thing for you. And like of the music I've heard so far, I mean, obviously I don't, yeah, I don't know what like future plans are, but I think of now it's a very distinctive thing because like I feel in an Irish context, and I don't know if you agree with this, but like you don't really hear that. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
don't really hear the kind of Jersey club mixes.
yeah. No, yeah, you're right. Of course. I mean, a part of it was like, when we make music, we want to be relevant, of course, but we also want to be different to what everyone's putting out. And if we're looking at the scene and we're like, okay, it's flooded with these dark drill beats, okay, let's come with something completely different. And in New York and different parts of the world, the Jersey club sound is like popping. So we're like, yo, let's be one of the first people to do it here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Hit Me Up came from.
And I mean, it has been obviously proven popular. I think there is like a uniqueness to what you're doing, and I think there is like what do you call it, a novelty in a way. Like it feels like fresh. You know what I mean
Yeah,
in Irish context. And do you
yeah.
think that's how the reception's been to you?
Oh yeah, 100%. I remember when I dropped it, people were really, really like messing with it.
Hmm.
And then a week later was the headline show.
Yeah.
When that came on, it was like a new beast. You know what I mean? Like as soon as that hook came on and everyone was singing "Hit Me Up," like the whole place was singing it back to me. Like I didn't have to sing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's those moments when you're at a show and you kind of realize, oh, okay, all right, yeah, okay, they like this one. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, what's the plan, I guess, then for your collective?
Oh, the plan is honestly to just keep growing, keep striving, keep working hard. You know, in the next sort of year or two, we'll be looking to like sort of bring more people on board. I feel like we've grown the team slightly in the last year. We've added a manager. Obviously, we have full-time video staff now. KB's obviously in charge of, you know, mixing and music production, but we're still looking to, you know, have someone on photography, maybe a couple more artists, you know what I mean? So we do actually want to just grow.
And what do you think you guys do differently to other collectives that are out there?
I think what we do differently is probably just our attention to detail and obsessing over the tiniest little detail.
Yeah.
I think having that in your back pocket will make you like almost dangerous, you know what I mean, compared to just someone who just, you know, people can just make music, but what are you going to do to really make sure that this music is heard or people really love this music? And we have a few trade secrets that, like, you know, that we employ to make sure that we're heard, you know.
Absolutely. That's perfect. And I guess I'll just ask like two more questions. So second last one would be just yeah, can the music that you're releasing so far, is it building up to an EP or an album?
Oh man, I wish. We plan on dropping like our first album like late 2024.
Okay.
Sometime like that. We want to make sure we have a little bit of motion because like we've been talking about this album for like years.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that when we drop something, it's like something that like it's not just Ireland that's hearing, but like the whole world. So we want to get a little bit more momentum behind our name, you know?
Absolutely. And yeah, I think also like releasing singles is a good way of constantly what do you call it, retaining a fan base, because if you release an album, it's like one and done, that's it until the next one. But if you're releasing singles every couple of months, you're getting a new thing, and it kind of keeps people retained, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, facts. That's definitely the plan, to just keep like remain on the forefront of everyone's mind, you know what I mean?
Would you guys ever consider maybe doing a compilation album of all your artists once you have more people under your belt?
Oh yeah, definitely. We were on a walk like last week and we were all talking about that. We were like, oh, what would that sound like? So yeah, definitely. Oh, I'd love to do that. It's like a dream of mine.
That's like, I always love that when like labels and collectives do that, the kind of stuff. It's just a great way, I think, of discovering new music. But also I think, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think even with all the kind of like new ways of marketing and stuff, I still think the best way of discovering new artists is just through live, just seeing them at like, you know, as a sport act or like at a festival or something, you know?
Yeah, 100%. We say that to each other all the time. I feel like you can be a presence online, but you truly solidify a fan base when you're seen live. You know what I mean? Like, because they get to like, you know, live the music with you on that stage, you know?
Yeah. And that's something I think a lot of people missed during lockdown. And now, because after people understand the kind of importance and significance of that, how do you feel like about being a musician, I guess, like during the lockdown when you were still kind of growing?
Oh yeah, it was when I look back on it, it was some of my most fun times I've had making music. And whether the music or not was like great, I'm not too sure. But like it was literally like, you know, because lockdown happened nearly like towards the end of the academic year, kind of in summer. So it was literally just waking up every day and in the studio, like in my home studio, just recording, send away stems for KB, and then we get on calls for like 6-7 hours and just work on those songs and build them up together. Like I really enjoyed that time. But the worst part of it is not being able to take the music out anywhere. You know what I mean? People couldn't hear it. They were stuck at home.
Yeah, man. But like now you guys are obviously making up for that. And do you have any more live events planned for the meantime, or?
Yeah, definitely. We want to spin back in like late August with another live show. Hopefully we can secure a bigger venue. I know the team is working towards securing a date right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to do a bigger venue like by the end of summer.
Would that be a showcase or just a headline show?
Probably just another headline show. And
Yeah.
you know, I'll bring through some surprise guests and stuff like that.
Nice. So, but one thing I just thought of now, actually, do you guys like scout live? Do you like check out shows to try and see people, that kind of way?
Yeah, at least I do. I know I do for sure. Like I remember going to like Fortune show, and I go to some of these showcases at like the Grand Social, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll just go kind of like, it's almost like it's to enjoy the music, of course, but also to like scout competition. You know what I mean? I want to see like what can I add to like my live shows to make them better? What can I, you know, like how are people's songs translating when they perform them live? So like I love seeing that type of stuff.
Yeah, and how do you think like I mean, like, cause you know, obviously playing the Soundhouse is a great venue, but like the options are kind of limited in terms of what you can do as a stage production. So how do you kind of make the live show interesting given the parameters of the venue?
I think one thing that like we get complimented for a lot is like crowd control. I think because like, you know, of course I'd love to do the whole like arena setup and have like the fire and the smoke and everything like that, but like because we can't do that, we place a big focus on making sure the crowd is engaged throughout the whole hour-long set or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Keeping them involved, doing things that involve them, getting them to sing along, and, you know, making sure that they're having just as much of a good time as I am.
Perfect, man. That's all I had to ask. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up? Or
no, not in particular, man. I just want to say that, you know, this was like, you did a really, really great job. Like it was a really great interview, and you did your like homework and your research, and like I salute you for that. And I just hope that like, you know, like you can get where you want to go in your journalism career. You know what I mean? Because you deserve it.
I really do appreciate that, man. That's very nice. And same for you, of course, obviously.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more.